All right. I'm going to tackle this one. What are appropriate ways for girls to get noticed without being sensual, aggressively flirtatious, etc., especially focusing on body language and how they move around a room? So my first answer is don't try. Don't try to do it. Holy men who love holiness will love holiness. So be holy. On the other hand, men who love your body will love your body. Bummer. So I'm going to assume that most of you want to attract a holy man. Be holy.
I've told my girls this. When I was in high school, I used to walk a certain path to see Jay Mahoney. I can't believe I just said that boy's name. Oh my gosh. He's not around. Anyway, I would order my whole day about going to my locker a certain path so that I'd make sure I passed him. This is not what you want to be doing with your life. This is a cautionary tale for you. If you're spending your life trying to be in somebody's path or trying to be in their presence, you're not trusting a sovereign God. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't get out of the home and be in places where people are. My girls know people got to meet people. It's one of my famous sayings. People do have to meet people, and you don't meet them if you stay in your room reading a good book. So get out. But do not scheme. Do not scope out people. Do not think of boys as possible spouses. It is not the right way to think about our brothers. That is God's job, to get your possible spouse and get him to your door. You should be meeting people. You should not be walking a certain path and walking a certain way, and if you are, you've seen too much Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, and I would just jump back to a question that we sort of answered quickly about basically how to attract a guy. And I'll tell you a little bit about what Reese was attracted to in Elizabeth. It was the fact that he saw that she was doing these things. And my brothers were the same. Like, 'cause when they look at all these girls who are dressed nicely and they're pretty and they're look very, dignified, it's kind of hard to know. So which one? And so my brothers were looking for the girls that were doing the things that they wanted a wife to do. And you might feel like, well, I can't do any of those things, but you can. Like they were looking for the girls who loved children and were ministering to children, not just because they were cute, but like who loved the souls of children. And preach the gospel to children. And this is something that attracted Reese to Elizabeth. And they were looking for the women who were, really pouring themselves out in a supportive role to the people around them. Because that's how they know she's going to be a good she's going to be a good helpmeet. They were looking for the girls who had, for lack of a better term, really developed relational skills in speaking to people and in encouraging and in conflict resolution, and just because they know that this is what they're marrying, that these skills are what they're going to be married to. These skills are what they're going to be bringing into their own home, and they're watching how a girl lives these things out. And and that is what attracted Reese to Elizabeth, is that he saw Elizabeth doing things that he wanted in his life. And he wanted her words of encouragement in his life. And he wanted her ability to preach the gospel to children in his life. And he wanted her faithfulness in the little things in his life. And that's how I would answer that question.
Well, and the great thing is, if you're pouring yourself out, like as much as you can, as much as the Lord gives you grace to just be pouring yourself out into the things that are in front of you and the people that are around you, you don't even have a lot of bandwidth left over for thinking about all the things you don't have and for being sad and lonely. Like, there's a limit to how lonely you can be if you are deeply invested in dozens and dozens of people. And if you're really clinging to the Lord through it, like if he really is your strength and your support and your comforter and your encourager, you just feel more and more loved and more surrounded by his presence all the time. That was like the whole story of especially the latter part of my singleness. It was so good. It was so good. I would not have traded it for anything except for marrying Reese.